Greetings everybody. Today I thought I'd talk about VOR, using VORs in Microsoft Flight Simulator. So first we'll talk about what a VOR is. So the letters VOR stand for VHF, or Very High Frequency Omnidirectional, which means it sends a signal in all directions range. It is simply a radio navigational aid that it is comprised of three different variations of a VOR. First being the VOR as a whole, simply just the straightforward VOR. A VOR DME, which DME stands for Distance Measuring Equipment, and a VORTAC, VOR with Technical Air Navigation, TACAN, used in military operations. And the single VOR can have all three, DME and VORTAC. It's just different stations. So to summarize what a VOR is, it's basically a VHF ground radio station that emits straight line signals known as radials in all directions for navigation. So here is a picture of a VOR ground station, and this is the Vienna VOR or VORTAC. It's in the middle of nowhere in central Georgia, and here this is a the VOR on a sectional chart. This is what it looks like. Here in the center is the station. So this here in the center of this compass rose, if you want to look at it that way. And this is pointing for Nematinat North. And as you can see, it depicts the different radials coming off the station. So you got a 0 up here representing north, 9090 for east, 180 would be right here, and 270 for west here. And it gives you 24, let's see, 33, 12, 15. So you can see it works off like it's similar to a compass. Down here is the different stations and the legends that you'll see on a sectional chart. So this is just this one here would be just a straight VOR, nothing special, just a VOR. The box would be just a simple DME. There's no radials. It's just measuring to the station. Here we have a VOR with a DME. So you just put the DME box over the VOR. And this here with the three notches is a VORTAC. Now for here, you can see that there's a little star shaped thing, and that is a GPS waypoint. So it's covering up the VOR, but you can kind of make out the VORTAC shape on the map. So this box here tells us what this VOR is. So it's a VORTAC. If you can't, obviously we can't see what it is because they got a GPS waypoint, but it tells you it's a VORTAC. And this is the name of the VOR, the Vienna VOR. This would be the frequency you would tune to pick up the VOR, 116.5. And this would be the TACAN frequency, channel 112. Oh, excuse me, channel 112. And the three-letter identifier, VNA, so for Vienna, Victor November Alpha. And we have the Morse code for each letter, so V, N, A. So short, 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 long, long, short, short, long. Now when you tune to the VOR, you want to listen for this Morse code. And it tells us two things, or actually three things, I guess. First, it tells us that we are tuned to the VNA VOR. And don't worry about memorizing the Morse code, because they give you what the Morse code is supposed to sound like. So to make sure we're on the Vienna VOR, we listen for this Morse code. 2, it tells us that the VOR is functional. If you tune to this and you don't hear the Morse code, it may be that the VOR is out of service or down for maintenance. And 2, it lets us know that we are getting reception. We can pick up the Morse code, so we should be able to get a pretty good reception for our instruments. Now these numbers up here are for flight services, and I won't go over that in this video. So what are some uses for a VOR? Well, I guess the main use would be for cross-country navigation. So say you don't have a GPS on board, you don't have ForeFlight, you just have a simple instrument. You can fly from VOR to VOR, and those are known as Victor Airways. Now you can do it without Victor Airway, but Victor Airways are VOR to VOR. Another use could be used for lost prevention. So let's say you're doing a cross-country flight, and you don't want to fly from VOR to VOR. That would take more time, more fuel. You just want to go from point to point. Now without GPS, you're basically using dead reckoning and pilotage. And so to back up your navigation, you can use a VOR to cross-check your waypoints. So you can use the VOR radios to locate your own waypoints. Use your waypoints. Or if you're out there playing around, you're having fun, and you realize you're lost, you don't have a GPS, you don't have ForeFlight, but you got a sectional chart and you got a VOR. You can use triangulation to pinpoint your location on the map, assuming that you can get reception to VORs. And the third use could be instrument approaches. So some airports will use a VOR for the primary nav aid, which would be a VOR approach, VOR DME usually, or an instrument approach procedure may use a VOR to locate waypoints or fixes along that approach. So this is a low IFR map for the central Georgia area, and you can see here's the Vienna VORTAC. Over here we have the Dublin, and this would be a VORTAC, and the bots for our information for the Vienna VORTAC's here, and the one for Dublin is here. And as you can see, Macon has a DME, no VOR, just a DME. It used to be a VOR. So alright, so I wanted to show you the Victor air routes. So Victor 5, it's going between the Vienna VORTAC and the Dublin VORTAC. And here you can see there's a Victor 70. It's going from Vienna, and it's probably going maybe Statesboro or Augusta, I'm not sure, somewhere that way. And these little, as you can see, these little triangles are the waypoints. So there's Eucala waypoint. Here's well, this one's not on the Victor route, but here's Oconee, Click, Gamesy, Governor. So a practical use for this. Alright, so let's say you're in Perry and you want to fly to Dublin, and it's IFR, and there's no GPS on board the aircraft. You can take off from Perry and fly to the Vienna VOR, pick up the Victor 5 route, and then fly to Dublin. You'd probably break off over here somewhere before actually getting to the Dublin VOR, break off and do the approach. Or you could take off, fly to Sony, and then fly this this Victor route into Vienna, and then go to Dublin instead of doing direct, because your IFR, you don't have VOR is the only way you can navigate, so you got to go from point to point, and you would do that with the Victor 5 route, the Victor Airway route. Now the this altitude here, 2,100, is the minimum altitude for the airway, and so it's basically saying that at 2,100 feet, you should be able to pick up either the Vienna VOR or the Dublin VOR to stay on this route. Here, this 40 in the box is the distance between Vienna and Dublin. The total distance of the Victor 5 route. Here, 27 is the distance between Vienna and Ukala, and then from Ukala to Dublin, it's 13 nautical miles. 057 indicates what radial off of the Vienna VOR this Victor 5 route is set up on. So you would set your VOR to 057 and basically just fly that. Or if you're going from Dublin to Vienna, the 243 is the radial off of Dublin to get to Vienna. That's pretty much it for the Victor routes. Here we have two approach plates, instrument approach procedures. This one is for Eastman. It's the VOR DME Alpha, and it's using the Vienna VOR, as the primary nav aid for the approach. So you'd fly. It's basic. This is a basic procedure. You just fly the 080 radial and follow your profile here to the airport. Here we have St. Simon's, and this is a little bit different, but it's also a VOR approach, and it's using an arc. So instead of just flying direct to the VOR and then to the airport like you would here on the VOR DME, you'd fly to it, do a hold or direct into Eastman. Here they want you to do an arc to set up for the inbound, and you basically just zigzag along this little path here until you get into your inbound. Here's an example of an instrument approach procedure using VORs to locate fixes along the approach. So this is the ILS localizer for runway 2 at Eastman, EZM. And because the localizer is just a singular signal and doesn't have DME, you need some other way to precisely pinpoint a fix. And these fixes here, as you can see, give you your altitudes for the approach. So here at Sinva, the initial approach fix, you can locate it three ways, or two ways. One would be on-course localizer and the 127 radial off of Vienna. Or you could do the 2 VOR across Vienna and Dublin to locate it. Now it gives you DME, this 38.1 is DME from Dublin. It doesn't give you DME from Vienna. It just gives you DME from Dublin. So Sinva is 38.1 nautical miles from the Dublin VOR, and it's on the radial 214 coming off of Dublin. And to locate apt to, you would use the localizer course and the radial 106 off of Vienna to locate your initial. So one thing to keep in mind with DME is it uses it's a slant range. So it's basic trigonometry. You're using the hypotenuse for the distance. So here you can see in this figure that we're 6,000 feet above the ground, which would be approximately 1 nautical mile, and we're 10 nautical miles, on the map from the actual VOR station. However, the distance that the DME is reading is from the aircraft to the station, and it's slant. So if you want to get real technical, you could do some basic trigonometry and determine your actual distance on the map to the VOR. But this is important because as you get closer to the VOR, it becomes less accurate. And I stole this figure out of Mr. Rod Machado's book. Hope you won't mind. But if you're looking to start taking flight lessons, or just want to learn more about aviation, this is a great book. Highly recommend it. It goes over everything you could ever imagine and more. And I'll leave a link in the description to his site. I think he came out with a new book, a new private pilot handbook. And if you're familiar with the Microsoft Flight Sim, you may recall that they used to have flight lessons with Mr. Rod Machado, virtual flight lessons. Check it out. So now we'll head over to the aircraft, and I'll demonstrate some VOR functions in the simulator. Okay, here we are in the Cessna 152, and we're somewhere between Hawkinsville and Dublin, or Vienna, Vortac, and Dublin. And I just want to go over the basic function of the instrument here. So this is our VOR instrument, and the needle in the center is what we call the CDI, or the course deviation indicator. Here the compass rose is the OBS, or the Omni bearing selector, and we can rotate around to locate what just look at a radial. The horizontal line is used for the ILS glide slope, so we'll just ignore it for now. We're not too concerned with that. And as you can see, we have 2 red flags, which indicate that the VOR instrument is not picking up anything. It's stagnant. It's disabled. So here is our radio stack, our communication radio, COM1, COM2, and our navigation radio, NAV1, NAV2. On the left is the frequency being used. On the right is the standby frequency. Same for both. You push this to switch between the two. And you always tune the standby, just default the way the radio is set up. Always tune the standby, and then when you have it selected, you just push it over. Same for the COM, the communications radio, same basic function. So, and to listen to the Morse code, and make sure that you have the ident function and for the audio panel to be able to hear the Morse code, and I'll explain all this as well. So we want to locate the Vienna VOR and the Dublin VOR. So first we need to find out what the frequencies are for the two 2 stations. Okay, so how do we tune to the station? Well, first we need the frequency. So for Vienna VOR, we'll type in or dial in 116.5. So come over here, we'll put it in the nav 1. So, and by the way, this one here, the top is for the top, bottom is on the bottom. So 116.5 in the radio. 6.5, flip it over. And as you can see, the nav flag went away. We have navigation. And we have our CDI deflected to the left. And to pick up the Morse code, so the short, long, short, long, we'll just push the nav button on the audio panel, and you should be able to hear it now. Okay, so we know that the Vienna VOR is functional and we're on the proper station. And we'll do the same thing for Dublin. So we'll come over here, we'll look at Dublin 113.1, 113.10, flip it over, and we'll do the same thing, listen for the Morse code. Alright, so we got the Dublin VOR. Now, I know that I'm somewhere in this general area. Somewhere. So let's look at the VOR. Okay. So the basic function, if we want to find what radio we're on, we'll just rotate the OBS until this needle centers up. Alright, so you can see that we're on the we're centered up on the 246 radial for Vienna, and this radial is headed to the station 2 flag, which would be, so what it's telling us is that the 246 radial, which is right here, it's going this way, so we're over here somewhere because of the 2 indication. So to get our location over here, you can just simply look down here. So 990.096. So 096. It says we're no, that's the sit. Sorry, 3, 4, 5, 6. Sorry, 6, 0. So we're right about here, somewhere. Okay. And to demonstrate, we can just simply flip it around and make it easier on ourselves. If it'll rotate, it's taking a while. 065. So 065 from the VOR. So we've got a from shooting out. We're over here somewhere on the 065 radio. Okay. Now we'll do the same thing for Dublin. Now, since we know we're on this radio and we're out here somewhere, we're to the southwest of the Dublin VOR. So we will want a from indication in one of these westerly headings. So we'll just come over here and put in a westerly heading until we get it centered up. So we are on the radial 240 from the VOR, right here, 24. See the 24 coming off of Dublin. And if you look up here, we've been flying along and we've changed our location, so we'll recenter up. So we are on the 060 radial from the Vienna, and we're also on the 240 radial off of Dublin. So we're in here somewhere between Cochrane, Chester, and Empire, or somewhere in this vicinity. So let me show you how you would intercept a radial. So let's say we want to fly the Victor 5 route. So we want to fly the 057 radial off of Vienna. Okay. So we would put 057 in our OBS 057. So you can see the radial is off to our right. So we'll fly a heading of about we'll fly 070 for now to intercept the radial. You can see here we are heading. So there's 404, fly heading 075. Okay, 075 on the heading. So we're tracking right about here, right off the tip of the CDI. And we'll just maintain this heading until the needle starts to center up. Alright, as you can see, the needle is starting to center up in the center of the instrument, which means we're getting close to the radial. And we're flying a heading of 100, so we'll start turning on that radial of 057. So right about here somewhere. So here we are. Now we're tracking the 057 radial from the Vienna VOR. So the Victor 57 route. This is what you would see heading 057 on the 057 radial. Now if there's any kind of wind, your heading may be off a little bit, left or right, but you would just find the heading that keeps the needle in the center, basically, to stay on the 057 radial. Now a little bit something about the to from indicator. So what it's doing is so the VOR is sending out a signal from the station. So here we have a from indication of 057, which means we're to the east of the VOR, because the 057 signal is going away from the VOR. So because we're east, to get to the station we'd have to fly west, obviously. And as we turn the OBS to a westerly head, and you see the flag turns to 2 TO, which means to the station. So here you can see that the 235 radial is going to the station. If that helps make sense to you. So while we're up here, I don't have my map up, so I could probably figure it out just by using dead reckoning and pilotage. But let's say we're lost. Okay, now you can see there's an airport up ahead, but let's say we're lost. So we'll do the triangulation method on the VOR. And it may help to do a from indication, just and I'll show you why. But let's find our from radial from Vienna. So it looks like 055 radial from. So I'll write that down, 055 from Vienna, VNA. And for Dublin, from indication 240. So 240 from DBN. Alright, so I'll take you over to my sectional map and we'll draw it out, and we'll find out exactly where we're at on the sectional. Okay, unfortunately the courses, the numbers that I got in the simulator are actually paralleling with each other, so you can't really do triangulation with that. So I'll just I'll make up a course. So let's say that we got a from indication from Dublin 210, which is right there, and we had a from indication from Vienna of 090, which is there. So you take a plotter and you draw a line from the center of the VOR out 210 here, draw it out, and make it bold so you can see it, and then come over here to Vienna Vortat, do the same thing, find 090, draw a line. Okay, and you can see there, that's where the lines intersect. So if that was true, what we had, we would be we'd be about 5 miles east of the Eastman Airport. Okay, so let's say now you want to fly directly to the VOR. So how will we go about doing that? Well, first you'll need a 2 indication, just to make life simpler on yourself. So we'll find a 2 radial, and we'll basically just center it up in the center, put the CDI in the center. Alright, so 240 to Vienna. So now we'll just turn heading 240 to track to the station. Now keep in mind, this doesn't have anything to do with heading. It's just the OBS off the it's just the radios off the station. Alright, so we're heading 245 now, and it says the radio is off to the right. And we're not really concerned about tracking a particular radio, we're just trying to get to the VOR, so we'll just center it up. So it looks like 241, and we'll just fly this heading here to the VOR. And just to demonstrate more that the VOR doesn't really care about the heading of the aircraft, I'll put it here so that we have a this radial 235 is off to our right, and we're heading 250. So I'll make a 180 and show you that you can see that the CDI stays to the right, and we have a 2 indication. Okay, so we're directly 180 degrees off of that radial, and as you can see, we still have a 2 flag and we still have a right deviation. Now, regardless of the aircraft's heading, in order to get back on that radial, we'd have to fly at least 300 to intercept that radial. So we'll just keep on coming around to 300 and we'll intercept the radial. So there's 300, and it shouldn't be too far off because I only moved it about 10 degrees, 5 degrees off, so we should start to see it coming in. Okay, to try to help make more sense of the to from indication, let's say that we tune to a we'll say this would just be 120 radial. So it'd be somewhere right here, right? 120 from. So we have a from indication. Now, why is it a from indication? Well, our airplane's out here, right? So the VOR is sending the signal away from the station, sending them away from the station, right? Which means that 120, the signal is going this way. It's going away from the station, so it's from the station. Now on the back side of that, let's say we're over here. All right, we still got 120 topped in, right? But we're over here. Now, which way is the radio going? Well, it's still 120. The signal's going this way. It's going this way, going to the station. So it'll be a to indication. All right. Now, let's say we're dialed in to a 180 radio. 180. The reciprocal's up here north, right? Our aircraft down here. 180 radio. Well, we're getting a from indication, right? Because this radio is going this way, it's going away from the VOR. And if we're up here, it'd be a to indication. It'd be a to indication. Because 180 is going this way. Now, if it was 360, it would be a from indication because it would be going this way. All right. So, what point will this flag flip? It'll flip at the 90-degree point. So, as soon as you cross this line here, it goes from to. Because we're at 180, right? So we're from it. Once we cross over, now 180 radio is going this way. Oh, sorry, going this way. It's going to the VOR. And I hope that helps clear it up some. Okay, I've magically put the airplane closer to the VOR. So we'll do the same thing. We'll to get to it. We'll put in a to indication. And we'll find a radio that centers up. So there's 215, and as you can see, we're closer, so it's going to be more sensitive. So we'll try and track it to the station. All right, 200, tracking to the station. And you can't quite see it yet. So as we get closer, obviously it's going to be more sensitive. And once we pass over top of the field, we'll lose the radio, and the flag will flip from to from, because passing over it, so the radio is going to be from the station, not going to the station. And there's a thing called the cone of confusion, which is where you'll start getting a left or right deviation the closer you get, but just maintain your heading, and once it flips, it'll come back in and it'll be normal. And it looks like we're starting to enter that cone of confusion. The VOR is down there somewhere. I think it should be. Okay, so you can see the needle is now from the station, and it's starting to retrue itself. So there's the VOR, that square block in that field. So I'll circle back around to it just to show you again, because I was trying to look for it visually. Let's see, where is it? Okay, there it is. Alright, so notice we have a from indication with the right deviation. VOR is right there, right below us. Alright, so you see as we get closer it starts getting cone confusion. And there's the flip 2, so we just passed over the station. And that's what Microsoft thinks the VOR looks like. Okay, here we are on the Just Flight Warrior, and I just wanted to show you this instrument. This is more of what you would see in a typical GA aircraft, where the needle swings instead of moving horizontally across the gauge, it swings. And this VOR doesn't have glide slope, and this one does, and you see the 2 from flag. This is pretty typical of what a real-world GA aircraft would have in it, not the one we saw in the 152 where it moves horizontally. Okay, here we are in the King Air, and I wanted to go over primarily just this instrument here. This is known as a RMI, a radio magnetic indication, and this is considered a compass, and this pointer here, the yellow pointer, is pointing to the VOR, just points to the VOR. So you can see we're heading 360 north. So as we turn, you'll see that the pointer remains pointing at the VOR. So it's basically telling us that the VOR is at a 2. Let's see, it looks like 210. So it's telling us that the VOR is at about a 210 heading from our location. So as we come around, you see that the pointer is still pointing to the station. So now it's at a 200, so we're on the 200 radial, if that makes sense. Okay, here we are in the Piper Seminole, and I wanted to discuss this instrument right here. Now this is a wonderful instrument known as a HSI, and it is basically a VOR and a heading indicator joined as one. So this heading you're getting, and it works off of a magnetometer, so you don't have to reset it or anything. It's ready to go. So the compass numbers here are the aircraft heading, and this yellow needle would be the course selector, or if you want to think about it, it would be your OBS, right? So this needle here is the CDI, the course deviation indicator, and it has a heading bug. You can use this for just a quick reference to remind yourself what heading you want to be on, or the autopilot system will track this heading. So, and the lever line. So this orange line is the heading that the aircraft, or it's indicating what heading the aircraft's flying. So we have it selected in Vienna VOR, right? And it works basically like this type of VOR, where you turn the OBS, but the needle moves inside the compass. So there you can see the course lining up in the middle. So we have a 2 indication of 215 radial, or 3035, right? So this would be to get to the VOR, we would fly heading. Well, let's see. To get to the VOR, we'd set this up, find a 2 indication, line it up, 210, and you don't have to. There's no looking back at the VOR to the heading. You just simply move the aircraft. You just simply turn the aircraft. Wow. It's going nuts there. All right. Just turn the aircraft to line up with the CDI. Now the best way to do it would be to line your lever line to the top of the CDI needle and use that to intercept it, and I'll demonstrate that here in a minute, assuming I don't crash the airplane. Okay, so we'll put the lever line on top of the CDI needle. So we're at about there. And you can see that the needle is starting to line itself up, and you just continue walking it all the way in to the center of the course needle. And you can see the same thing over here on this VOR. Alright, so there's the HSI. And this aircraft also has DME. So this is our DME. We are 10.8 nautical miles. This is our ground speed, 157 knots. And it's going to take us 4 minutes to get to the VOR. So here's the frequency, 116.5, 10 miles. And that's about it. Flying off into the sunset. Okay, here I want to demonstrate using the VOR on the ILS to Eastman. So we're out here somewhere, and I'm tracking inbound on the ILS. So I have my ILS tuned in to the HSI, and I'm looking for Sinva using the 127 radio off of Vienna. So here I have the Vienna tuned in, and we have 127 selected in the OBS. So now we're on localizer course, and you can see this is centered up, so we're now passing Sinva. I hope you enjoyed watching this video of how to use a VOR, different functions of a VOR. If you liked the video, please like and subscribe. Thanks for watching.